Morning, Mike.
Hey, good morning. How you doing? Good. Oh, there's a lot. All right. Made it Friday. You came to every one, didn't you? So far.
It's early on Friday. Let's see how many people show up. If you would have been smart, you'd have scheduled this for 6 a.m. and then no one would show up.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
You can count it as a meeting, though.
Yeah. Well, We had this thing on an original press release that went out. It had it at 8 p.m. tonight.
Yeah, like that would work.
Oh, yeah, no. It's like, no, don't make me do that one. It's an interesting experiment. I'm expecting Senator Sokola to actually be at this one.
So have you had your shots yet? No.
I just got an email the other day. It was from personnel, and we're all ready here at City Hall. They went through all the training, some of our training, and we're basically just on wait, and they don't think it's going to happen until April.
Oh,
but it could happen. I mean, it could happen, I guess, any time. It's whenever the state slots us in, and they just haven't yet. But I thought it was going to happen. I heard about it in January that we could maybe get vaccinated, and then it's like I thought it was going to happen in February, and then I thought, well, it's probably going to happen in March, and now it looks like April, and so I'll probably in May 1st I'll be like everybody else, so I'll be eligible and trying to get my spot.
well, 2 weeks Tuesday for the second one. I've had it already, so I'm as of next Tuesday, I should be fully inoculated, which means I can run naked through the streets without a mask.
How about it? Yeah, great.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to being on a. I'm not looking forward to you running naked down the streets, but I'm looking forward to being able to be all vaccinated. Just get behind me. I was wanting to go to the YMCA down in Cecil County and maybe start to go back to the gym, but I don't think they have very strict measures down there. And so, I'm waiting, I'm waiting to the curve to keep dropping down more people to get inoculated. Hi, how you doing? Yes. Are you Ruthie? Oh.
Tim is here.
Hi, Mike.
Tim.
Tim, hey, how you doing, Tim?
Good, Mike. How are you?
Very well.
Oh, no. I'm going to mute myself. My clock is dinging.
I see Freeman Williams. How you doing, Mr. Williams? See Aisha, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good, Michael. How are you?
Welcome back.
Thanks.
I guess.
going to give it another minute or so, and then I'll probably just start things off, and more people will probably trickle in. Here's another bit, Jeff Rigner.
Hey, good morning, Mike. How are you doing?
Morgan,
Freeman, how are you?
Mr. Freeman, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. It's nice
Or,
seeing
Mr.
you.
Williams. I keep seeing you, Mr.
It's
Freeman.
okay.
Freeman.
Yes.
We're getting in there. Jeff Rigner came on. Here's Jim Jones. Welcome back, Jim. Will Hurd. Will, how you doing? All right. Hi again. My name is Mike Fortner. I'm a planner with the city of Newark, and there'll be some more people probably trickling in. But this is called a virtual coffee break. It's for the Comprehensive Development Plan Review. We did kind of a big overhaul of the plan 5 years ago, and it was approved in 2016. And this is a 5-year review. This is us looking at the plan, looking at the goals, the provisions and action items from that plan, and evaluating them, see what our progress is, and also given the changes over the past 5 years, what's still appropriate, what maybe needs to be tweaked or even added or plain taken out. And so this planning commission established a steering committee that's is doing this review. Part of this plan for planning, and I'll go ahead and go in here. Part of this plan is the public outreach, and so this is part of this. They want to do at different times, doing outreach to the public, hopefully meeting different groups. With this pandemic and this virtual type of format that we're kind of our only tool. It's a great tool in the sense that it's easy to come to these meetings. One of the disadvantages of this type of approach is it's harder to get a good conversation flow. These are meant to be kind of focus groups small groups that we can just sort of talk about local planning issues. It's hard for me to read the room, hard to know when I'm being interesting, hard to know when I'm being boring. So the tactic I take for this is I just always assume that I'm killing it. And so that's what I'll assume. And that I'm getting laughs all around. And so this is the plan for planning. This is available on this website here. Before we go, I'd like to go ahead and just maybe we have about 7 or 8 people in this group. And if we just go around and just kind of introduce ourselves, just who we are, what we represent. I'll start off with Ruthie and Tim. Introduce yourself real quick.
Sure. We've lived in Newark since 1984. Tim used to be on the
Community Development Revenue Sharing.
Community,
Where I work with Mike.
Yep. And we're very involved in Newark, and we were both, I just recently retired from the university, so we get out and about trying to do some volunteering now with the city, and did the community garden last week. We're going to do a trail maintenance thing. So
And we love the city.
yes, we do.
Very good, thank you.
Mike, this is Carl Kadar.
Carl, go ahead, Carl.
Can I ask everyone to please mute themselves unless they're actually talking? We're getting a lot of feedback on the audio.
Thank you, Tim. I'm gonna turn my volume up a little bit. Great. Mr. Williams, Freeman.
Yes, good morning. My name is Freeman Williams, and I am a lifetime resident of the city of Newark. Growing up and going to school, the public school system, and also attending the University of Delaware to obtain 3 degrees. I too echo the comments that were shared before me. My family and I, we are very, have a strong affinity to the city of Newark. We are, my wife and I are both retired, and we have a number of options in terms of living elsewhere, but we've opted to stay here because of the many amenities and opportunities that the city of Newark provides. I'm involved in a number of community groups. I'm the president of the Newark NAACP. I do a lot of things in the city, and also I do a lot of things in the county and also statewide. And it's a pleasure to be able to be retired and to be able to give back to Newcastle County and the state, but more importantly, being able to give back to my hometown of Newark.
All right, thank you, Freeman. Freeman's also, he's one of our steering committee members. Another steering committee member is Carl Kadar, who's our chair. Carl, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, good morning. My name is Carl Kadar, and I represent District 6 on the Planning Commission and chairing this committee here with Mike. And look forward to your comments this morning. Thank you.
Thank you. Aisha, I see you online. Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, this is Aisha Bilal. I'm a second year PhD student at the University of Delaware. I'm doing PhD in Urban Affairs and Public Policy. So I've been here almost 2 years now. I'm actually from Pakistan, so I'm an international student. I'm looking forward to listening to all the comments here. And I'm also part of the steering committee as a student member.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Will Hurd.
Hi, Will Hurd here. I've been a resident, I realize now, for about almost 24 years of the city, which doesn't seem possible. And I've been on the Planning Commission. This will coming up on my 7th year, and I'm the current chair and also a member of the steering committee. And looking forward just really to hearing what people have to say about the comp plan and the direction of the city.
Very good. Thank you. Jim.
Oh, whoops. Yep, there we go. Hi, yeah, yet another member of the steering committee and also another member of the retired Newark Citizens Caucus. It seems like a bunch of us are here today. Yeah, retirement's great, steering committee is great, and I'm happy to be here at the meeting today. I'm a civilian representing District 5, which is up Fairfield Crest, Fairfield direction.
Very good. Thank you. Finally, Jeff Rigner.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Rigner. I moved to Newark 35 years ago to go to college and never left. It's been a great place to raise a family. And even better is being Mike's neighbor. So it's in Oakland's District 1. My work is as a transportation planner and engineer. Takes me all over the country. And like Freeman said, I've had opportunities to consider being in other places and have really enjoyed staying in Newark. My wife and I decided we wanted to live somewhere that was walkable, a great place to walk in the neighborhood and to be able to walk to destinations like shopping and restaurants and things like that. And that is definitely something that we want to see continue and to be expanded here in Newark. So Mike, thanks for the opportunity to participate.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. All right. It's about 15 slides in all. I'm going to run through them. I'm going to stop every once in a while and just ask if there are any questions or discussions. And you, of course, if you have a question, just kind of cut in. We're a small group where we can do that. And when we get to the end, it's supposed to be kind of a focus group. We can talk about any kind of local planning issues you'd like, and I'll try to answer questions. Or just nothing else, just get your comments down. And that's part of the purpose of this. I'm going to go ahead and go to right here. Comprehensive plan, just real quick. I think a lot of you already know what this is, but this is a thing that we do, of course, every 5 to 10 years. We look at this. It integrates our land use and how we're developing with a lot of different aspects of the city. For example, economic development, transportation, housing, annexation. Here Tom Fustoffer is coming on. Hi, Tom. Tom Fustoffer is if it is Tom or maybe somebody with his name, is a planner with the city. when he's connecting. So it integrates these different aspects of the to the city, so we can plan together. The reason we do this is so first of all, we can coordinate with the different state departments, the state and the county, and it also it gives us a chance to engage our residents and to build an informed constituency, to sort of educate you about what's happening, what kind of local planning issues that we have, get your feedback on that. And it also serves as a guide to landowners and developers. They use this when they are looking to redevelop in Newark or develop in Newark, see what the city's plans are for those areas. When we developed the 2016 plan, which we call Comp Plan 5, because it's the 5th edition, before that we do this thing sort of unrelated to it, but it's called a Newark Residence Survey. And so some of you have probably gotten this in the past. And we do this about every 5 years. And that year we asked a different question. We asked people what you like about Newark, and it was an open-ended question. And the number one answer that people gave was College Town. It's College Town. And number two was something like hometown and also location. But hometown and College Town became kind of a theme of the Comp Plan 5. It's a hometown because I think, as Jeff and Freeman said, this is a place where you grow up. This is a place where you raise families. And so this is a place where a lot of people do that. And we want to be that kind of place. We want to be a good place where you raise families. But this is also, it's also a college town. And if you ask someone outside of Newark, what immediately comes to mind when you say Newark, oftentimes they're going to say college town. Newark is a college town. And so as part of that, we sort of embrace this, that college town has a very positive association. It means a lot of things to people. It means it's a youthful place. It's our residents means a place where there's a lot of high educated people that live in our town. It's also a cosmopolitan, a diverse place with people from a lot of nationalities that come to the city of Newark. So you have an opportunity to meet a lot of people. It's also considered a progressive and free-spirited place. And so there's a lot of associations. It's also a popular place to retire because of a lot of those features that I just described. There's a lot of activities to do here, sports activities, they can plays and cultural activities for them to take part in. And so as part of this plan, we embrace this sort of branding or identity as a college town, and it's a positive thing. And developing the plan, we were very inspired by the University of Delaware's Complete Communities Toolbox. And so they have a number of principles that they think make what they call a complete community, a fully functioning community where you can live, but you can shop and you can get many of your needs as possible within the community. Some of the components of that, and I'm not going to give you a planning 101 lecture, but a term called complete streets. You can maybe Google that if you'd like, but in short, it means that we don't just plan streets that are for automobiles. And that was sort of an old model. Streets were for automobiles. We plan streets that serve all transportation, including pedestrian and bicycling and transit. And so that's sort of one of the principles that we are trying to implement in the city. Effective use of land, which includes things like infill development, not just expanding and taking over farms as we grow out as part of development, but redevelopment, reutilizing land within the city, underdeveloped land, which includes higher densities in the town core to make Newark a more walkable place. It includes mixed use, so that maybe if you live in an area, you don't have to be dependent on your car to go get a gallon of milk, that maybe there's a place within walkable distance, so you can go to a restaurant, other types of services or things that you like to do. Parks, another example. So those are the 5 principles. And it led us to this a vision statement, which Plan 5 was the first comp plan to have sort of a vision of what they wanted our land use to be. And so with that, we came with 3 elements. We wanted Newark to be a healthy and active community. We wanted it to be a sustainable community, both environmentally and economically. And we also wanted to be an inclusive community. It's for all people to live here, all different ages, race, income levels. We want this to be a place where they want to live. Under each one is just some characteristics of what we think a healthy and active community means, sustainable community in that. And so as you can see, this color coding is sort of like where these things aren't unique to each other. Sometimes, for example, a bicycle and pedestrian friendly community is a healthy and active place. It's a place where you can live an active lifestyle if we have these amenities. But that type of thing is also as part of a sustainable community, because those are, say, they don't rely on fossil fuels to work. So you can live an environmentally sustainable lifestyle if you walk and bicycle more, if this is a place you can do that. And also it also is part of being an inclusive community, that not everyone can use a car. So for example, young people they need a place, it needs to be a place where they can bike. Seniors, sometimes they not able to drive like they used to. People with different income levels maybe not have access to a car. So something like having a pedestrian friendly, bicycle friendly environment affects all of our vision goals. I'm just going to stop on there. Is there any questions or any discussions that anyone would like to say or add to that, or something that I've said is not clear? If not, I can move on. We can come back to any slide at the end. I'm going to talk a couple of things that the Plan 5 has initiated. A comprehensive development plan is a very broad document. It doesn't solve all the problems. We don't work out all the issues. It gives guidance and gives directions on issues. And so, for example, one of the visions is for Newark to be a sustainable community. But there's a lot of components to that, a lot of issues and a lot of programs that the comp plan doesn't, it's not going to sort all that out. And so what it does is say, what the comp plan identified was to to create more direction on how can we achieve Newark's vision for a sustainable community. So it called for a Newark sustainability plan. And so that was, again, a committee that was established, a Sustainable Newark Steering Committee. They met monthly for over a year. They had public meetings and they established a sustainability plan. They worked with city departments and developed this plan. It had 4 themes. One of the themes is how we respond to climate change, and that was a theme that focused on renewable energies. And so it set goals for Newark, since we're a utility provider, to move more towards renewable energies and to get to a net zero type of carbon footprint. Theme 2 was we plan for all. That was really kind of the planning theme. The way we plan our communities affects our ability to live a sustainable lifestyle. For example, if we plan our community in a way that is walkable and bikeable and has access to transit, people can live a more sustainable lifestyle, reduce their own carbon footprints. And so we want to live in a community that allows people to be able to do that. Green buildings is theme 3. How can we build our new buildings and even our current buildings so that they're more energy efficient? And then theme 4 is how we want to plan and preserve our open space and preserve nature. And for example, we have 2 floodplains that run through the city of Newark, and how we have a program that preserves those floodplains. And so they're wooded areas, and they stay natural environments for us, and also animals and water and all the resources they provide. Another component of the comprehensive plan, something that it called for under the transportation, is a transportation improvement district. And a transportation improvement district is something that we work with, or are working with currently with the state of Delaware. And we're going through a planning process. Again, it's another committee that meets monthly, and they have public outreach efforts as well. What it does is the way they explain this, the old model is that we have a lot of called infill development in Newark. We have a project, it's maybe it's 12, it's a little apartment building with 12 units. It gets developed on Cleveland Avenue, and we study that, and that really has no impact on traffic. Then a second building comes up, and then a third building comes up. and they don't have an impact. And then at some point, fourth, fifth, it's like, well, wait a minute, we're getting a lot of units here. This is having an impact on traffic. And so then we have to make, sometimes we charge that developer, they have to pay for new amenity, transportation infrastructure. And so that's not really fair, and it's not really good planning. And so what this does is we look at our future land use map, we make projections based on trends and our zoning and the future land use designations of these properties to what the what we think the maximum build out is going to be 5, 10, 20 years into the future. And then we plan our transportation infrastructure based on those projections. And then all developers pay into that system. We look at the transportation infrastructure that we'll need, and developers pay in no matter how small. I mean, not a single family house isn't going to pay, but any kind of redevelopment is going to pay into that based on their size and based on what the equation is. And so that's what this map is showing, the kind of the hot spots where we see development. Oh, let me use my thing. This is all these circles are where the hot spots where we see development and kind of the projections that we have in those areas. And then it also calculates the surrounding development outside the city that I think impacts our traffic sometimes even more than the development inside. And then we come up with these calculations. Finally, we get to the land development. This is kind of a tedious part of the comp plan. It's stuff that has kind of a real legal sticking point. This is a future land use map. All the different colors represents a different land use, and it's shown here in this table. And we categorize every parcel with a future land use. And so you might recognize this area. This is, I think they call the bins, and we have some old Newark right here, for example. A lot of this has kind of a light yellow, which is residential low density. You see right here is that kind of orange and red. That's a mix of mixed use development, which is residential and commercial. And then you have just straight commercial use as well. When these things have a force of law, and one of the components is when you designate a property that has with a future land use, the zoning has to correlate with that, be a matching zoning. And so this is not really the tool where we experiment. For example, if this is a building right now, it has a school on it. I think that's West Park Elementary. And if that was to ever not be a school, it would be, it's zoned and its designation would be a low density residential development. So probably more single family houses. If we decided, well, maybe there's more opportunity here in just single family houses, maybe this would be a good little commercial sector for this area of town. Now, I'm not proposing that, but I'm just being hypothetical. But let's say we thought maybe this would be interesting to do that in. We wouldn't want to change this to mixed urban. So we could, and then we'd have to change the zoning to BB, which is a mixed use development. We wouldn't want to do that because we'd have to change all that before we even saw a development plan for that area. And so our practice has been that the school went away and a developer wanted to buy that and propose that, we would make them convince the community, planning commission and council that whatever development proposal they had, if it was different from its current zoning, this low density residential, that this would make sense for that area. And if they do make a case and it makes sense, then council at their discretion could vote to change the zoning and the comp plan designation. And so most of your redevelopment, and when I get to the next slide, these are kind of the hot spots. For most of the city, well, that means to say oftentimes when a redevelopment comes, there's often a comp plan amendment associated with it. And so it gives sort of the impression that every time there's a development, we change our comp plan. But really, there's just a few hot spots in our city where we see a lot of redevelopment happening. And most of the rest of the city, you're not seeing that kind of, and it's staying constant. And so the Planning Commission worked on identifying areas where we see as a redevelopment potential opportunity. Mostly this involves converting low density commercial to mixed use or student housing, low density residential to student housing. And we identify areas where that development's happening and where we think it makes sense for redevelopment to happen. And so this is an area, for example, this is where Benny and South Chapel Street, you're seeing a lot of small single family houses, sometimes on very large lots that are being purchased, and the property owner wants to put a small apartment building on there, maybe 6, 7, 8 units or more on that property. And so they need a higher density zoning. And so the Planning Commission tried to identify these to give kind of direction on where we think how we think redevelopment should happen, and create a series of kind of focus areas and text kind of amendments to give guidance, but doesn't have the same force of law. It doesn't require us to change the designation and the rezoning. It doesn't require us to do that, but it gives council and the community direction about what we think. It shows that some planning is going on, that we're giving this some thought. We're just not changing zonings willy-nilly just because a developer wants to redevelop it, that we've actually thought about this area and we thought about the impact, and that redevelopment could be appropriate done a certain way. And this keeps the leverage with the community more than if we just change the zoning in the comp plan. Then we don't have any leverage anymore. That was a complicated thing. Do you want me to stop there? Any questions on that?
Mike, I just wanted to sort of make 2 comments.
Sure.
One, on the Transportation Improvement District, I think you did a good overview. I think the thing I would add is that we recognize that each sort of development project adds an incremental addition, so adds a small increment of additional traffic. You know, we know that going from like, what's a single family home, or it's like a student rental, to, you know, a couple of units of townhome. It's like, okay, there's a few more cars, it's a little bit bigger. The issue we ran into is nothing really comes to us that's big enough to trigger DelDOT's requirement for evaluation of the traffic impact. So it's always that these projects come in under the DelDOT limit, and so there's no legal way to make us evaluate the adjacent intersections and traffic impact. But we know that there's incremental changes happening that at some point are going to tip over and make an intersection downstream now failing. And so the TID's intention is to kind of wrap the city in a boundary and say, anything that happens that changes traffic is sort of is tracked and paid for, and sort of we build up this buffer so that when we do need to make changes, we've got funds to do that.
Sure, excellent description. Thank you, Will. I agree with that a lot.
Thank you. I've heard it a couple of times.
Good. Incremental change. That was a good word to describe it. Sure, and I think that it does give you a little clear.
Yeah, I think the other thing is that, and this is sort of what drove the development of the focus areas. What we were seeing was a lot of comp plan changes, comp plan amendments, and they were really in areas where, like in the South Chapel Street, there's some properties there that are zoned RM, which by its zoning crosses between low density residential and high density residential. So people would take a couple of RM lots or a single lot, put a larger, basically a denser development on there, trigger the density. Basically, they're now a higher density than the low density, but they're within the zoning requirement. And we have to always, when the map is, change it from a light yellow to a dark yellow to keep the comp plan in agreement to what is actually happening on the property. But there wasn't a rezoning. It was just the zoning crosses. And that is something that we're kind of looking at a little bit, is to sort of go, are we recording density in the right way? Because, you know, should it be just all residential and let the zoning handle the density? Should we have 3 bands, higher, you know? But that's when people say you're always changing the comp plan. It's like, we're changing it so that, you know, the color is right. We're not going around saying, okay, now it's commercial, now it's this, now it's no. It's not, sort of not as random, I think, as people may feel.
Sure, thank you. And that was there. It's true. A lot of the properties have RM zoning, but they were small. You need an acre to do a RM zoning by code. So if you had a small lot like on Cleveland Avenue, we just didn't give you the. A lot of times we kept it low density residential so that you'd have to apply for the change because you didn't have an automatic right to it. All right, so we'll get there. Let me go, we'll cover annexation. This is kind of.
Mike got a question as
Oh,
well.
sure.
If back to TIDs, if we could please. Based on the work that I do elsewhere in Delaware, you know, a TID in, I think every situation that I'm familiar with, evaluates the effective development so that it can determine how additional road capacity can be provided, widening larger intersections, improving the level of service. Clearly, you know, from everything that you've talked about, the comprehensive development plan does not foresee that. What types of improvements are actually anticipated as a result of the TID?
Thanks, Jeff. Well, I should have emphasized more that you're right. It involves road improvements, sometimes capacity improvements. Our TID in our agreements is not, it's supposed to be complete streets, and we're looking at all modes of transportation, not just the efficiency of automobile traffic. And sometimes they have been used just for efficiency of automobile traffic. So we are looking at a complete transportation network. It includes bicycles, pedestrians, and transit. And when we're doing our evaluation, our TID, what projects there are, that's still in the development phase. What projects are they have a list, and I can get that to you. You can see that. And then my Bike Newark provided a list that we're also putting in to that, which includes a lot of bicycle projects. But they've modeled on a bunch of stuff that's, and I wouldn't be able to state these out real quick. I wouldn't be able to list them real quick for you, or it would be a real difficult. But can I work with you? Can I speak with you offline on that, or I can give you the details on that? Because you wanted to know specific projects that you thought were in here. Is that what you're asking?
No, really just in general, because like I said, elsewhere in the state, it's been widenings.
Yeah.
And, you know, if there are areas where roads are expected to be widened in Newark, that would be kind of useful to know. But it's good to hear that it's really more of a focus on all modes of travel and keeping things walkable and bikeable.
Yeah, there's been discussion. I think Jim Jones is on here of his committee.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can remember
Okay.
off the top of my head some of the kinds of things we've talked about. Certainly additional lanes if possible, or adding, you know, dedicated bike paths. In other words, using a wider right of way to include more ways to travel through it. There's at least one serious discussion going on about creating a new road where one doesn't exist as a way to avoid a bottleneck. Certainly a whole bunch of it has to do with just striping and, you know, timing of lights and all that kind of stuff. It's a pretty full range of transit or traffic management options as far as I can tell. So pretty much anything, when we look at a place and say, what could we do here? Yeah, we go through every possible thing to see whether any of it would serve a purpose or not.
One of the new roads, and this isn't anything definite. I think it's a bit of a pipe dream, but it's the what do you call it? The bypass, another road that would connect this neighborhood up here with the shopping center, would continue Route 4 essentially up in here. I think there's a lot of problems with that right now. Again, it's still in these kind of modeling proposals kind of thing. What do you get for that? So it's again still in the early phase. So it's certainly in a phase where if you want to come to these meetings, and we'll be doing a lot more public outreach as well. It's still in a phase that have impact if you'd like to contribute.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. All right. Anything else before I go to the annexation? Of course, we always come back. So anyway, that's a little section I'm going to talk about is annexation. This is where the city expands outside of its current municipal boundary. In this map, you see this tan area. This is the general municipal boundary. Areas that you see in the red are areas called planning areas, or areas that we think we might annex in the next 5-10 years, or there's a lot of annexation potential interests or opportunities. This area right here is out of play. We're never going to annex that for a complicated reason. One of the newest things, these were all in the original plan, but just recently we added this area right here called Planning Area 7. Whoops, let me take that out. And that's shown right here. When we didn't have any interest up there in the plan. We never thought to put this in a plan area, and you have to create a planning area in order to annex it. If it's not in our planning area, we can't annex it. We have to do an amendment to the comp plan, and then we go to the plus and coordinate with the state and the county and add it in. And so this is the thing we had to go, and we added this in. We originally looked. We didn't want to do this piecemeal. We wanted to do this as sort of a comprehensive kind of plan. So we looked at this entire area and decided that this area in this darker yellow was appropriate planning area that they could redevelop it, and they would benefit from city services. There's a lot of properties here that are on septic right now and well water that they could benefit from when their septic fails, that they would annex into the city. We also saw this as a place that was a good place to live. It's separated from the county because this is a state park right here. This is the county system right here, park system. So it's sort of almost cut off from the rest of the developed Newcastle County. And so we saw this as a potential place to annex in the next 5-10 years. Annexation, the city just doesn't annex properties. People have to request to be annexed. And that's why you see Newark as sort of, you see something like this right here. These folks wanted to come into the city or are developing the city, and these folks have not wanted to come into the city, but they have the potential, if this planning area is passed, to request that council annex them, and then they could take advantage of some city services. What happened was there was a developer interest to annex these properties, and council did annex these properties and did a small housing development there of about 10 houses. So it went from 3 small houses on large properties to 10 houses that will be smaller, probably about close to that size right here, that property. And then at the next week, not this Monday, but the following Monday's council meeting, council is going to review annexing this property that's in our planning area now. And this is a horse farm. They want to annex into the city to, again, take advantage of city services and to be in the city. And they want to maintain it as a farm. So we actually created a little farm ordinance just because we didn't have anything in our zoning code that permitted farms. So we had to add something, and it would be permitted as a special use permit, which means it's a conditional use, meaning that it has to get approved by council. Not anyone can just start a farm. They have to go to council and show that it doesn't have a negative impact on the community. What council wanted just to review the application in front of them, and they didn't want to take action on the broader planning area. There was actually quite a bit of local opposition to some of the surrounding community to this proposal. I think there was some opposition that basically they didn't think this fit with our sustainability vision to annex up here, that it wasn't a bikeable place because this is sort of cut off from the city. This is a kind of a busy road. This is, although it has bike lanes, this isn't necessarily a great bicycle road for the whole family. Yeah, we're just cutting off. We're just expanding out too far and not being able to serve it properly. Council did annex this. They'll again review this application in 2 weeks. And we're looking at this as part of the update. I think it was a mistake that we left this out when we did Comp Plan 5, and that we just didn't see this area, and that we think it's appropriate to annex. And this area right here is a vacant parcel. It's zoned commercial. This would totally make sense for it to be in the city. It could be something, the extension of this Woods of Levere property. We could have restaurants and other types of shops in that area like we have in this development.
Hey, Mike,
Yeah.
I have a question about the farm, the horse farm area.
Sure.
Is there any kind of stipulation on how long can it stay a farm? I mean, is there any point where a developer would approach this owner and say, hey, I want to buy your property and put, 300 houses on it or something like that?
There is well, for that, there is a 2-year
2 years.
thing in there, 2-year, yeah. But when they take advantage of you get a tax break when you're a farm, and they've been getting it for years. And if you redevelop your property, you have to pay back all those back taxes that you got to break on. So there's a financial incentive to stay a farm. This person, again, they entered the city, they want to stay a farm as long as they're there. It's been a family farm for generations, and they plan on keeping it. At some point, it could develop. Another thing that we did was that we're proposing giving them an RE zoning, which are acre lots. So this family could develop in the county and do a little bit denser than 1 acre lots. And so there was a concern about annexing this farm ordinance, that people would annex in saying they're going to be a farm, and then once they're in, try to flip it and then be able to get a denser development. And so what we did, if you're going to annex in and be a farm, we're going to give you the same kind of development rights that you had if you were in the county, is basically what we're trying to do. So we're giving them 1 acre development rights. So there's no real incentive for someone to annex in and then say, oh, now we want to develop into single family housing.
And how many acres is that?
There are, in this parcel right here, are 14 acres. A little
Oh,
more.
okay.
Yeah. You would
Mike,
15 houses
if I-
in there. I mean, not all that's
If I
developed.
could jump in real quick to add,
Sure.
Mike, I think it was, we had originally considered longer than 2 years for that, but I believe that the lawyers determined it wasn't legal to put anything longer than 2 years. Longer distances hadn't been upheld in other cases, so that's why it's 2 years.
That's correct. You're excuse me. You're not allowed to. You can't say zone something farmland. You can't say something like zone it. The only thing you can do there is be a farm and zone it that way. Just like the Newark Country Club, where we can't zone them golf course and say you can't develop there. You can only be a golf course. It's taking away. It's considered in legal terms of takings. You can't take away the complete value of a property. So the best we can do is give them a pre-zoning that gives them the same type of development potentially would have in the county. If that property ever developed in the future, we probably wouldn't want them to develop as acre lots. We want them to come to the city and say, we'd like to do this type of housing development. And then we would have the leverage to evaluate it and get a good development there rather than just a straight up by right development. So we want, like, for example, if we had, 5 single family houses, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to us to give it city services. But if it was a denser development at some point in the future, it would make more sense if it was denser. But anyway, so that's basically the thing. We're protecting it and preserving it as a farm. Anything else about that? Or did I answer your question, Ruthie? Okay.
I was just going to add that a number of those, the zoning density and the development sort of hold were in response to council's review of the agricultural use zoning code and such, because those were their concerns as well, is that people would bring a large parcel into the city, and our least dense zoning is a half acre lot. So you're automatically basically doubling what you would have in the county, and there was concern about that. And so this was done partly, or a large part, in the conversation with council and in their consideration.
That's right. So we create a larger zoning district to do that.
Right.
Yeah. All right. That's all my slides, and this is a sort of discussion we can just open for anything. We can talk about downtown development, parking, housing, or just anything about plan you want.
No, one of my concerns, Mike, is sort of the variation among development. Now, if you go out, let's see if I get my streets right, out South Main Street, if you're going, out of town, on the left-hand side, there's a beautiful development with a raised walkway,
The towers. yes.
beautiful homes. And by and large, I think most of the development in Newark has been very positive. But then all of a sudden, some of these buildings sneak in, and I drive by them and I think, where am I? Am I in a Soviet Union? There are these salt boxes that are just ugly as sin. And it seems like in a town like Newark, you would want to maintain a minimal standard of development that sort of fits in with the rest of the atmosphere. The other thing is you look at the James Hall Trail. I'm going to go do my Irish thing and go around the mulberry bush here. My daughter lived in Bloomington, Normal, Illinois for a while. And in the development there, between developments, the developers were required to develop bicycle paths that connected developments. So there were bicycle paths off the main roads, not just stripes down the road, but off the main road and between developments. Now, Delaware's small and I understand it's already developed and there are a lot of complexities to that. But I don't know whether we can build that into the plan, that if you're going to build something, you have to make it more friendly, the transportation piece. You have to make it more friendly to those people who want to be off the main roads. I find it very dangerous myself. It scares me when I think I'm a pretty safe driver, but kids on bicycles, who knows, just you look the wrong way and you pull in the middle of the street, and it can be a real disaster. So that's it. Thank you.
Sure. The more leverage we had, the more we can control on the design. When you have a completely by right plan, there's less control we have on the thing. So if you build a single family house, they can build their own single family house or a building. And so sometimes when they don't have the zoning they need, especially in redevelopment, we have lots more flexibility. That's where a lot of these student apartments that you see, you mentioned the South Main Plaza, I think was the building you were referring to. It has a very stone and brick facade.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yes.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, they had to make it that way to appeal to council, get that kind of mixed use development there. They needed a zoning change and a comp plan change. And we think that puts the city in the best position to get a good development.
Yeah.
And most of new developments fall under that somehow, some sort of site plan approval where they need relief from some of the zoning code provisions. There's almost always something they need relief for.
Yeah.
And again, to do that, one of the things they can do to do that is provide a good design, especially, and we have a design guidelines that make it walkable. Connectivity between parcels is a tricky one in this city.
Yeah.
They don't like to do it. I don't know, maybe there's a way we could force them to do it more, but they have, someone brought up, there's this where, what's the little brewery, where's 268 East Main, and right next to that is Grain. There's a fence there. I mean, it'd be nice, and then hooking up to the shopping center, it'd be nice if all that could just be like part of a walkable design. But then these developers, they don't always talk to each other. They don't always like each other. They don't like to play with each other sometimes. And maybe they got insurance. I mean, they say insurance concerns, but the basic thing is they don't like each other sometimes. They don't like to play. And some better developments could happen if developers would work better together.
Yeah. The other area that's really nice is New London Road. When they took down those several single houses and continued that apartment look across from Clayton Hall area. And then Cleveland Avenue, right diagonal across from the church there, the Methodist church. That's beautiful there too. And then you go down South Chapel and you think, oh my God, why can't they do something here? Because there you've got all these and the rest of Cleveland Avenue, that was all the Chrysler Corporation, homes, the people who worked there, all those brick singles, some of them have been turned into nice duplex kind of complex. And it would be nice if they would continue that kind of development in those areas. South Chapel's a disaster. I mean, it's across from the Newark Shopping Center area. That's just a mess there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of restrictions in there in terms of, one of the things is parking, for example. Why South Chapel or North Chapel can't develop is they need to provide the parking, and you get the kind of buildings you're seeing some redevelopment there, but it's not, they're providing for all the parking, and you don't get a great building that way sometimes. And so one of that is to start really rethinking the way we think about parking, especially downtown. You do see a lot of redevelopment. You bring up a sort of an issue of what we call it gentrification, but and here someone called it studentification. Our students are students who can pay extreme amounts of money for housing. And so those areas are old housing, but they used to be our workforce housing, also in the New London community. And so we're having a lot of people being displaced. I wouldn't say displaced because they sometimes, some of them own their property they can sell for a good price. And, but where do we find housing for everybody, not just the students?
Yeah.
Right.
You build housing for students, it frees up a unit somewhere else. I mean, we think that around the campus is a good place for students to live so they can walk there, that's close to class. They don't have to drive as opposed to living in Wilmington and driving in. And we think that makes sense for a walkable community to live a sustainable lifestyle. When we build something downtown or in that surrounding area, we hope that it's taking the students out of the rental market from the surrounding areas, bringing them close to the campus and freeing up those houses for workforce housing. But we'd like to see more development for other types of housing. Mr. Williams, did you want to say something? Go ahead.
Yes, I do. And it's just want to follow up on and talking about the New London, Cleveland Avenue area. And again, I have this real historical perspective because from my family's perspective, as the tools mentioned, that was one of the reasons that I'm dating myself. 60 years ago, my family moved to Delaware from Michigan to come to a place that's non-existent anymore, the Chrysler Corporation, where my late father worked. And so I've observed the evolution, and I won't say, I'll just use evolution of the neighborhood changing and moving from its historic perspective to now something that's student generated and focused. And I'm probably one of the few people that I represent that understands that transformation that has occurred and that ship has sailed and you have to move on. And so part of the moving on is that regularly I hear at my NAACP meetings, people have changed their focus, and it's not so much anti-student, it's the focus ranges around parking issues, because there's still a few people who live in that community, and also the traffic issue itself, because we have 3 historical churches that reside in that area, and there's a misnomer when we talk to people assume that the only time that's an issue is on Sundays. Well, that's not quite true. Many people, including myself, we go to church and their church activities, and it's also still those churches, especially in a non-pandemic environment, they serve as a real core for a series of activities for people who once upon a time lived specifically in that area, but still have a connection. So I guess just one of the things I think we need to continue to put on our radar as we continue to make those adjustments. And I'm not against some of the things that was discussed in terms of adjusting some of those single house rental situations into something that's more efficient. But I think we have to, clearly incorporate that there are some traffic issues. And even from a selfish perspective, I live in Christiansted, and there are lots of times when I try to figure out, so what is the best way for me to get into Main Street? Or if I'm at Rite Aid, I'll be real specific, because this happened to me actually yesterday. I'm coming, and maybe it's as a retiree, maybe I should pick a better time to go to the drugstore and do some things other than 4 o'clock. And I'm a smart guy, and I'm going to probably do that. But again, in all seriousness, I think we just have to include all the factors when we're looking at growth and we're looking at efficiency, that there's still a few people who live in that area, but more specifically, there are lots of church attendees who are affected probably Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are probably the highlights besides Sunday. And I was directed by the NAAC to bring these comments to this forum. So thank you for the opportunity.
No, absolutely. Thank you. Anything else? Any follow up to that or another topic? Tim, you're on mute.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I think back to the issue of when I think it was Will who talked about the development doesn't reach the threshold of bringing in a Del Dot. But he's right about the trickle down, and that's how we feel on West Chestnut Hill Road, you have to look, if you have to leave at 7 o'clock in the morning, you have to go up there and go, oh, am I going to get killed leaving the development because they're coming at me from Maryland? They're coming this way and they're coming this way. And you see that on Main Street certain times of day. So the trickle is really, it's more now like a wave. And I don't know, at one point, is there enough traffic to trigger a Del Dot evaluation of some of these areas to say there's improvements that can be made? Or, it sounds like on a case-by-case basis, developers have found a nice loophole and, to get around that.
So the Transportation Improvement District is a way to try to address that. Now, I don't know that includes that West Chestnut Hill Road.
No.
Include all the cities, more of certain around the core.
Sure, yeah.
But you're right. I mean, a lot of impact on Newark is not necessarily from Newark. When there's a development in Newark, they're from all over. It could be a big job sector here, a residential sector way outside of town, and even in Maryland, and people are driving sometimes through Newark just to get to their job.
Mhm.
But yeah, so that's what a TID tries to address. It tries to address those little incremental changes that add up after a while, and that haven't been caught in the previous type of transportation studies that have been done. Or what do you call that when we make a developer do a transportation study? I forget, but whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure about it. I think the other challenge we run into is that we're bounded by the city limits, but there are people who live outside it. We're right next to the Maryland, as you said, in Elkton. And so there's all this outside influence and effect that we don't have a lot of control or impact over, or don't have control over, that impacts us.
Right.
And that could even be people who want to be close to Newark but don't want to be in Newark, developers. So they build something just over the line, and then they're adding traffic to the road, and we have no control.
Right. And Will, I think you're a classic example of that is the Cashel Mill extension, and and feeding in into South Main Street and beyond. And I know I'm optimistic. I'm looking forward to the final results of the construction on South Main Street in that whole area. And so, but still, there's still that bottleneck that you have to confront. And that's one of the reasons why I'm glad I'm a retiree now, that I don't have to battle that like I did for a number of years going into Wilmington into my office. But again, it's just I understand it's just that balance and trying to understand how that works. And for someone in my role now, trying to explain stuff to different constituent groups, I'm taking it upon myself to become more acclimated, so that whether it's good news, bad news, or in the middle, I think taking a page out of our President Biden's approach, you gotta just be transparent and let people know what's going on. So clearly that's one of the reasons why I'm glad I'm involved in this process, and we'll try to serve as a conduit to people that I interact with.
Yeah, I do say, I think one of the advantages we have over other places, maybe say Middletown or other places are further out, we have oftentimes the luxury of 2 or 3 different ways to get to someplace. I can say, well, I got to go up Paper Mill. I don't want to go up Paper Mill. I'm going to go, or I got to, I'm going to go out and over and arrange. And I think that helps to some extent keep the traffic issues spread out a little more, instead of being really bottled up, where you look at other places where it's like, well, that's the road into town. And that's the road that all the developments dump onto and all the shopping centers dump onto, and that's it. There's no around.
Sure. It's a suburban style development.
Right.
It's all focused on the main street, and we have some suburban style development, but we also have sort of a grid, but we also have these barriers, these train tracks that run in, so it prevents us from having a perfect grid in the city where you can have lots of alternatives. If one road's blocked, you can just sort of go around the block to another area. And so we do have some challenges that way. It's an awkward city to get around in sometimes. Good. All right, we're at the 9 o'clock. I can take any more final comments, or but thank you for participating. And we have one more of these, I think, next Tuesday at 7 o'clock. If you drink coffee at that hour, and maybe we'll do some more of these. We'll probably do another round of these maybe later on the planning process. Maybe get your feedback on some ideas, and please keep your eye out for that. Okay, thank you very much.
Well,
Thank
thank
you
you,
very
Mike. We
much.
really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Everybody have a
Thanks,
great
bye.
day.
This is